Heather Thamer, and I'm going to be leading you in a yoga class. This yoga class is specifically for upper limb loss or upper limb difference. So let's settle in. I'll be showing poses in the chair and also out of the chair, standing, seated. So, depending on what's going on with your body, then you want to be comfortable. So you could certainly be in the chair for the whole class. If you want to be in the chair for part of it, come up to standing, you could do that. If you wanted to start on the floor in a seated position, you could be in a comfortable seated position. I would say if you're sitting on the floor, maybe have some blankets underneath you so that your low back is supported. Comfort is key, really. Comfort is key. So take a few moments to settle in. And we want to, as you find a comfortable seat here, you want to be seated if you're in the chair with your feet forward a little bit of your knees and your shoulders back and your heart lifted. And you're welcome to close your eyes or keep them open. If you keep your eyes open, keep your gaze soft on something in front of you. This helps to relax the face. We'll begin with centering. So that simply means bringing our awareness to our breath. We could, in some cases, think about a word or bring an image to mind that's calming and peaceful. But today, let's focus on our breath first. So take a nice deep breath in through your nose and release it out through your mouth with a sigh, like this. Okay, let's do that 3 times. Breathe in through your nose. One more. And now be aware of the natural rhythm of your breath. Feel the way your in-breath flows into your out-breath. And as you breathe in, imagine this energy flowing up your spine to the crown of your head. And as you exhale, soften maybe down through your face, your jaw, your rib cage, your low back. So with each breath in, we feel this refreshment through the center of our system here. It's this energy rising up. And with an exhalation, you might feel a sense of feeling grounded, feeling steady. Even notice with your exhalation, your relationship to the earth here. Whether you're sitting on the floor or you're sitting in the chair, notice where you can feel the earth or solid surface underneath your pelvis. And we'll take a few more rounds of breath. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Simply bring your awareness back to the feel of your breath. Sometimes it's really nice to count your breath. So count how long your in-breath lasts, and then do the same for your exhale. That gives our mind something concrete to focus on. Sometimes it needs that. So you could be breathing in for 4 seconds and then breathing out for 4 seconds, something like that. And now, if you'd like, you could bring a hand or both hands, whatever's available to you, in front of your heart. You could have your hands touching. You could have your limbs touching. If there's a residual limb, or you could be resting hands or limb at heart. And you're connecting back with that innermost part of yourself that's always there, this essence. This essence that's at the heart of us all. Yoga helps us to calm that mind chatter sometimes so that we can connect back with that steadiness, that essence. It's always a part of you. And then you can release and open your eyes slowly. And now let's move the body. So in the chair, You could take Tadasana Pose. So Tadasana Pose is mountain pose. So Tadasana is in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the ancient language of yoga. So you might hear me say some words in Sanskrit. I think it's really nice to hear that connection back with the roots of yoga, to appreciate the lineage of where yoga came from. It originated in the East, in India. And so the ancient language of yoga is Sanskrit, which is one of the ancient languages of India. So you might hear me say the word in Sanskrit, but I'll always follow it up with English too, so that we can make that connection between the two. So mountain pose, I'm going to bring my sit bones forward a little bit in the chair, and we're going to begin with some neck stretches. And you can certainly do this seated on the floor. So first, sit tall and gently take your collarbones back. So think of like from where your collarbones end here. If you have collarbone shoulders, you're going to think about taking that back. And if there isn't a collarbone or shoulders, then think about extending your heart forward and keeping your chin level with the floor. Now breathe in, and as you breathe out, release your chin towards your chest, so you're lengthening through the back of the neck. And we'll work with the breath here. So breathe in, look forward, heart is lifted. Exhale, release chin to chest, lengthening the back of the neck. Breathe in, look forward, and exhale, release. Keep going. Do 2 more rounds. So gently working with those muscles that have a big job of keeping our head up all day. Okay, and then come back to neutral. And that just means that you're sitting back in mountain pose, or your head is aligned with the bottom of your spine. And now let's move into a pose called cat and cow sequence. So on the in-breath, you're going to extend your heart forward, draw your shoulders back. So you don't want to let the ribs poke out here. So try to keep your ribs hugging in as you extend the heart, which I know is really something to think about, isn't it? It's a little bit of work, but it's good. And then as you exhale, release the breath and release your head, chin towards the sternum as you lengthen through your back and through your neck. This is cat pose. Now breathe in, lift up through your heart. This is cow, and exhale, release the breath as you release the head and the rib cage softens inward. Inhale, lift up. We'll do a couple more of these. Exhale, releasing. Inhale, lifting. This is refreshing for the spine and for our nervous system. And exhaling, releasing. One more time. Breathing in, breathing out into your cat. And then come on back to neutral. Okay, now if there is an upper limb, you could release the limb and think about moving from your heart. A lot of the movement is going to come from the central part of our body. So keep your sit bones grounded, and you're going to tilt to the right, like a little tip to the right as you're leaning over to the right. And if there is a left limb, you could reach that up at whatever point is comfortable. Hold it here for 2 breaths. And then come on back to center. That was a quick 2 breaths. We'll hold it a little bit longer on the other side. And then from your heart and tip to the left side, lengthening from your waist to your armpit essentially. And then you might reach the arm, hand, elbow, shoulder, or even thinking about lifting from the armpit if the limb is not there. That's about 2 breaths. And then come on back up and release, come on back to mountain. Okay, now let's do a twist. So breathe in, get long through your spine, and now twist to the right. So notice the side body here. Notice the sides of your torso, your side ribs. Try to have your chin level with the floor. Keep the back of your neck long. With your next exhale, come on back to center. A lot of what we do is also including the breath. Just about all that we do is including the breath. So you'll hear me talk a lot about breath as we're moving through this. So moving to the twist on the other side, breathe in, lift, and then twist to the left side. You're taking 1 or 2 breaths here. Breathing in, and as you exhale, come on back to facing forward again. Now let's move dynamically with the breath, which means that it's more flowing with the breath. It's a little bit more movement. Breathe in as you lift, exhale as you twist. Come on back to center. Inhale, lift, exhale, twist to the left. Release back to center. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist to the right. Back to center. Breathe in, lift. Exhale, twist to the left. And return back to center. Let's do one more time through. Inhale, lift and twist to the right. Release back to center. Inhale, lift and twist to the left. And then come on back to center. Great. Okay, now let's practice a little bit of a downward facing dog. So I'll show you the version in the chair and then coming to standing. And then if you'd like to practice it on the mat, you're welcome to do that. So seated in the chair, I'm going to take my feet a little bit wider, and from my hip crease, I'm going to hinge forward. And then think about keeping your spine long and extending through your heart. And then you might take whatever's available to you. Shoulders lift, and you're drawing your shoulder blades on your back. So you're moving your awareness to your upper back. So your shoulder blades are like these wings on your back, and they're hugging in. Squeeze them in, and your neck is nice and long. You got space at your throat. This is our downward facing dog. This is a great strengthener for the back and even the legs when you're doing it in the chair like that. And then you can come on back up after a few breaths, and then pause here and breathe. Now let me show you that if you wanted to do it standing, then it would look something like this. So I'm going to face the chair. I'm going to step back a little bit and soften my knees and hinge forward. I want to be close enough so that I'm going to rest my shoulders on the chair like that, or really the sternum. And you're keeping your, again, neck long, your throat spacious. We're not dropping the head. You know, you don't want to feel like you're curling your head towards the chair back there. But again, you're staying nice and long through your spine. And you could bend the knees and shift the hips back. You see how I did that? And that really lengthens the low back. It's really nice. Okay, so this is a bit of an inversion. We could be here for anywhere between 1 to 3 breaths. I'm going to come up now. So with my knees bent, I'm going to go down through my legs. Inhale to come back up. Stand tall. Take a nice deep breath in. Lifting the heart, rising up through the crown of the head, and then release the breath. You're softening. Okay, so that's the version of down dog, those 2 ways. Now let me show you on the mat if you wanted to do it on the floor. If you're on the floor, if you started seated on the floor, and we're following along, then you could do it this way. Come to hands and knees. And so say that there is a limb difference on one side. So when you bring one hand to the floor, you're going to need support on the other side. So you could take a folded blanket. You could, fold it up so that it allows you to have this evenness, even alignment across your collarbones and your sternum. Okay, and so you're pressing down. So say I'm coming from here. I've created the right height, well, almost. Sometimes it takes a little bit of working with it. So I've created this height through my heart. My tops of my shoulders are even, and then I'm going to tuck my toes under and press down and lift my pelvis up, and I'm looking back towards my legs. So if you feel like one side is lower than the other, then you might come down and make adjustments. And if you need to stop this recording and get another blanket, or rewind a little bit and come back to it, feel free to do that. But I wanted to show you that. And then bring your knees back to the floor. And then, from here, if you're doing it on the mat, you could rest back in what we call child's pose. Take your hips back, and you could rest your head. You could bring, if you still have that blanket, you could bring that underneath your forehead. So you're essentially softening the neck. Sometimes this can be a lot for the knees. So if you feel any discomfort in the knees, keep your hips high. And you could even have a limb propped up on your elbow and your forearm, if that's available. Okay, and then we're there for maybe 1 or 2 breaths. Okay, so that's the different versions of downward facing dog. Now, time to move on. So I'm going to come back to the chair. Now we're going to do a little bit of stuff with our legs. We're going to do a lunge. So from the chair, I'm going to turn to the side because it just works better with my chair, how wide my chair is. So I'm going to bring my left foot forward and my right leg back. Now, if you have a block or a blanket, it's really nice to put it underneath the knee or the shin. Unless you like to work hard, you could certainly do it without, but I like to, you know, have that kind of medium, right? So I'm comfortable, I can feel the stretch through my hip and my thigh, and then you could even take it back a little bit. I want to feel comfortable. I don't want to work too hard, but if you want to work hard, take the knee back further, tuck your toes under. Okay, so this is our lunge position. And then you might lift your heart. You could take an arm up, whatever is available, and then be there for 2 or 3 breaths. This is a great strengthener for the legs. And then we'll release arms, bring that back leg forward. And then if you're in the chair, you could do a little bit of movement for your hips and your legs like that. Now standing, a little bit different. From standing position, the lunge would be stepping in a way, stand so that your feet are comfortable, at least hip width apart is really good. And then step your right foot back, bending your front knee so you could come up onto your back toes here so your heel is lifted. Can you see that? And then I'm facing forward, my hips are square, lifting my heart. If I want to take, you know, a limb up, I'll do that. Or maybe I want to focus on that lift of the heart. This is a great strengthener for the legs. Again, we're here for about 2 to 3 breaths. And then press down through your front foot, bring your back leg forward, take a breath in, release the breath out. Okay, so you always want to do the other side, like do one side and do the other side. Always be sure you do the 2 sides to keep everything nicely balanced. That's the lunge. And now next, we're going to do a balance pose. So seated in the chair, we're going to do balancing mountain. This can be done seated, this can be done standing, and I'm going to instruct you from the chair, but I'm going to give you instructions if you would like to be standing, how to do it standing. So first, find your mountain pose. That's where our sit bones are level, the ankles are a little bit forward of the knees, you're lifting your heart, your chin's level with the floor. Now if you're standing tall with the same alignment. Legs are at least hip width apart. You're lifting your heart. You have the space at your throat. Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay, now from here, take your gaze forward, extend it forward on something in the room. Maybe it's even like a light on your computer or a spot on the wall. This is what we call a drishti, which is a focal point. So we're going to keep our gaze there. That can help us balance, help us steady ourselves. And lift your right foot off the ground. And you're breathing. Notice how your core is working here a bit. If you're standing, it's the same pose. You're rooting down through the left leg and lifting the right foot up. And then let's bring that one down. Take a breath in through your nose, release it out through your mouth. Like a sigh. Feels good. Okay, balance mountain on the other side. So shift your weight to your right side if you're standing. If you're seated, press your right foot to the floor, and now everybody lift the left foot up. Your gaze is steady. Relax your face. And then set that foot back down on the floor. And breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Yeah, awesome. Okay, now we're going to do one more balance pose, tree pose. So tree pose, you could do it, I want to show you a few ways. So one way is to, if you're sitting in the chair, is to keep your your left knee bent and take your right leg out to the side like this. This is one way. Very easy to come into. You don't need any special props, right? Or you could, from this position, our mountain pose, extend your left leg forward and lift your toes. And then take this leg out to the side. Another version is to bring your ankle to your shin. And I'm flexing my feet so my ankles are firm, which creates this great muscle energy all the way up the legs. So you're strengthening your legs. Can you believe it? So by engaging the feet like that, you engage the muscles all the way up to your pelvis. The muscles are hugging into your joints and your bones. Okay, so take whatever position feels most comfortable in the seated position. If you want to do the standing, you would set the legs up this way. From your mountain pose, you shift your weight over to your left foot, come up on the toes of your right, and then take the knee out to the side and rest your heel on your inner ankle. Or you could play with bringing the sole of your foot to your inner calf. Or if you're feeling really strong and steady department today, you could guide that foot up to your inner thigh. You can also be next to a wall so that the knee is resting on the wall. And now keep the heart lifted. So if you're seated or standing, we keep the heart lifted. You could bring a hand in front of your heart. You could extend up through your heart and reach whatever's available to you, upper limb wise, upper arms. And finding a version of tree that's comfortable. You're working on balance here and strength and concentration, so it is all good. And then release your foot and release that. Okay, and then we do one side, we always have to do the other. So seated in the chair, you want to find that way to be comfortable, right? Remember the options, you can take the left knee out to the side. From there, you could extend the right leg forward. You could bring the ankle across to the shin. From standing position, from mountain pose, your feet are at least hip width apart. And you're shifting your weight to your right leg, bending your left knee, take your knee out to the side and rest your heel on your inner ankle or inner calf. I know you have to really listen because I'm not doing it. I'm standing in the chair, doing my tree pose in the chair. It's all good. Now let your hips hug in and lift your heart. And if you like, you could bring a hand or limb in front of your heart, or you could touch the heart, or you could reach up. Think about reaching up from your heart, and the gaze finds something to focus on. That's our drishti, focal point. And then we'll release that, and then come on back to mountain pose. Yeah, and then let's do a little bit of movement in between. Sometimes it's nice to just do a little bit of movement in between. So if you're sitting in the chair, circle around with your torso. Keep going. If you're standing, you can imagine that you have like a hula hoop around your waist and your knees are soft, feet are a little wider, and you're gonna shift your hips around in a circle. So do like 5 of these, maybe in one direction, and then go the other way. If you want to go longer, feel free. After each side, come on back. Okay, and now we're going to do a pose called Warrior 2. So in the chair, I'm going to take my legs wide. We're going to be going to the right side. So I'm going to keep my right knee bent. You could keep left knee bent, or you could extend your leg. Now, if there's a lower limb loss or difference, then think about keeping your hips level and keeping your thighs wide here. And then you're stacking your sternum, your heart, over your tail. That's awesome. And then take your heart up and your shoulder blades back. Remember, shoulder blades here. So you're drawing the shoulder blades back and down, hugging the back of your heart, lifting your chest there. And then turn your gaze out over the right side. And if you have a right arm, you could reach the right arm out. Left arm could reach out behind you. So this pose really, it builds strength, it builds concentration, it builds our stamina for sure. And take 2 or 3 breaths. And then we'll release that and come on back to what we call center, which is, I always think of it as like mountain pose. You kind of come back to this neutral position. Now for the other side, I want to show you standing. So remember in the chair, you took your legs wide, knees were bent. So if I'm standing, you could step your feet out wide and then turn your left foot out and bend your left knee. So if you're in the chair, you already have your left knee bent and you could choose to extend your right leg. Okay, now align your heart over your belly button. That's a good focal point, belly button, rather than the base of the spine, I think. And now turn your gaze to look to the left side. And you could reach out through an arm. Feel your breath flowing. We never want to hold the breath. Keep it flowing. So yoga is about, connecting within that unity that we have within ourselves, with our mind, our body, and our breath. And it should also be fun, and we want to enjoy it. Okay, release. And then if you're standing, straighten your leg, bring your feet to parallel, and then step your feet back in again. Great. Now everybody, seated, standing, take your shoulders up, breathe in, exhale, release. One more time, breathe in. Exhale, release. You can think about lifting the heart from the heart. Breathe in. Exhale, release. Good. Again, breathe in, lift up. Exhale, release. Yeah. All right, let's do another balance pose in the chair. We're going to do boat pose. I'm going to show you in the chair and also on the floor. So in the chair, just move it sideways. I'm going to come forward in the chair and take my heart forward and lean back. See how I'm keeping my head and neck and back aligned? So I'm leaning back so that my shoulder blades meet the back of the chair. I don't want to feel like my chin's tilting up. That's important. So if that's happening, slide back a little bit and then set your shoulder blades. Okay, now hug your upper abdominal muscles in and then lift your heart. Shoulder blades are resting, right? So this is a great strengthener for the core. And then you might lift right one foot up. Doesn't matter which one. Hold it there for a breath or two, because we still have to do the other side. Set that one down, lift the other one up. And if you're missing a lower limb, like say below the knee, for instance, you would focus on lifting the thigh. And then lower that leg down, and then come on back up and rest. Bring your back against the back of the chair, resting. Okay, now if you were doing, let me show you that now on the floor, if that's interesting to you. You want to try it. So on the floor, I sit on my bottom. I'm going to bring my feet and my knees together. I'm going to lift up through my chest. Already I can feel my back working, my core working. Yeah. And then I'm going to lift my toes up. And then I'm going to slide my heels back towards me, and I might lift my feet up. Keep the heart lifted. Keep your back strong. Keep your throat open. Try not to, do this, drop your chin down, but you're keeping that nice length. And you could hold it here for a few breaths. And then bring the feet down. I like to follow that one up with a little release forward. Bring your chest forward, release over your thighs. And you could do this in the chair too. Releasing over your thighs, releasing head and neck. Okay, and then come on back up. And now we're going to get ready to rest. So we're going to move into what's called constructive rest. So in the chair, you would move your back against the back of the chair so you're sitting comfortably. You could even put a blanket behind you. On the mat, come down onto your back. Have your feet planted and your knees bent. And this is constructive rest. So this allows our body to really refresh, recharge. You could close your eyes or look at the ceiling and let your breath deepen. So in the chair, same thing. You could close your eyes, or you're looking at something in front of you, letting your gaze soften. And now we'll move into our rest time at the end of our session, at the end of our class, your yoga class here. You can move into what we call Shavasana. So Shavasana is actually a pose. Take the legs as wide as feels comfortable and release your shoulder blades, release your head. You might take a nice deep breath in, and as you release the breath slowly, feel your body releasing to gravity. You could stay here for a couple minutes. You could even stay here for longer than what this class will run for. I'm just going to be here for another 10 seconds or so, but if you want to stay here longer, you could do that if you find this restful and relaxing. Shavasana is where we rest the body, we rest the mind, and we also let all that we focused on in our yoga practice really be integrated within ourselves. It's like your body soaking up all the positive ways that you took care of it in the last 30 minutes. Okay, I'm going to come out of this now, but feel free to stay here longer if you wish. You could just listen to the rest of the taping. If you're coming out of it, bend your knees, and you could roll to the side, whatever side feels comfortable, pausing there. And then slowly make your way back up. And then make your way to a seated position. If you're in the chair, you could maybe come forward a little bit so you're sitting more upright. Nice long spine. And you could bring a hand or whatever limb's available to you to your heart or into what we call Anjali Mudra. And thank yourself for taking this time to take care of yourself in this way through this ancient practice of yoga. It's a wonderful system of self-care, and it invites us to turn inward, to strengthen and stretch, but more importantly, to remind us of our wholeness, our union within mind, body, and breath. Thank you so much for tuning in. At the end of our session, we'll always close with Namaste, which means the light in me honors and recognizes the light in you. When you are in that place in you and I am in that place of me, we are one. So from me to you, Namaste.